there's also a feeling of mourning of a career, right? Because even though I've decided intentionally to do something that is 1000% fulfilling versus like 80% fulfilling, right? What I'm doing is my zone of genius. What I was doing before was my zone of excellence, right? And and that still felt really good. Like people don't understand. That still feels good. But I was going for something better. I want to live my life completely and fully, right? But you still mourn that I was really good at that. People really liked what I did. And I'm missing that validation now.
Hi, friends, and welcome to the Next Best Thing podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Cline-Thomas. I'm here to help you live the life that you design instead of choosing a life you think you have to settle for. Now, it's been almost 2 years since I launched into my next. I can't believe it. But I know, being a storyteller, being a journalist, that not everybody's going to resonate with my story. First thing, I'm a single woman, right? Like I don't have any kids. I am responsible to myself. So if I want to eat oodles and noodles every single day so I can make this thing work, I can do that. And that is fine. That is a privilege. I know that is not everybody's reality. So what I aim to do here on the podcast is show you just different ways that people are launching into and living fully in their next. And so that's why I called on my friend Arivee Vargas, because I thought it would be really great to see what the launch looks like at the very beginning. She launched into her next in March. Now, Arivee and I went to college together. We went to undergrad together. She went on to be a big time attorney, did the whole path of clerking, a federal clerkship, going into a law firm. But there was a nudging. Something was missing. So she went in-house to a company and was a part of their legal department. She really liked it. She was great at it. Something was still missing. So she started coaching on the side and started a podcast. She loved that. All of it still something. It just all wasn't together, right? Then she went into HR and she discusses all of this beautifully. Still something was missing. And as I said earlier, in March, she launched into her next, leaving her 9-to-5 career to put all of her chips and bet on coaching and speaking full time. She also has a podcast called Humble Rising. I was really lucky to be one of the first guests on that podcast a few years ago. She is a force, a wife, a mother of 3 small children who is betting on herself. I so loved this conversation. I learned so much in this conversation. And this is a conversation that, even if you're not a wife and mother like I'm not, this conversation will still put fuel in your tank. Please, before we move on, follow her on LinkedIn especially. I'm going to put all of her stuff in the show notes. She is always giving a word on LinkedIn. She also has a LinkedIn Live coming up on May 31st. Please go and sign up to support her. I can't wait for you to meet Arivee. I'm so happy she is in my orbit. And I am so happy she is fully launched into her next. So get into the conversation with Arivee. Arivee, I'm so happy to chat with you today, and congratulations on launching into your next, as we say around here. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Lots to talk about.
So much. And we're going to start with, like, how are you doing for real? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm in a season, as you know, because I just left my, corporate career, legal career before that, but corporate career more recently, to do this full time. And I'm doing well in terms of I have vibrancy, I have energy, I feel good about the direction of my life, I feel good about what's to come. I'm optimistic. At the same time, I am impatient and I'm a little anxious and I want things to happen now. I want things to
Yeah.
happen yesterday. And that's what's challenging is I went through a period of maybe right after I left my job, which I loved, by the way. It was like a really great gig with really good people. I went through a period where I was just running on all cylinders. I still had all that frenetic energy in my body. And
Mm-hmm.
when I say that, I mean the constant barrage of emails, the constant Teams messaging, the constantly being needed by people at work. I
Mm-hmm.
actually got used to that for years. And so when I stopped that job, and that's most jobs, right? Where you're going,
Mm-hmm.
going, going, always moving. When that stopped, when the source of that stopped, I, it's like a detox period. Like it really is.
Right.
And so I think I've come through that. Like that's now ended. I feel like I'm detoxed mostly.
Okay.
And I don't say detox in a negative way. I mean it like
Right.
you do have to get used to not being constantly bombarded. And I don't think it's negative.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just the way that certain people work and the way that certain environments are. Even if you're at a job where you're constantly on the move or traveling, for you to be still and for you not to be traveling is jarring for your body and your mind. It's actually like your body feels like it's in shock. And so I've moved through that and now I'm just in the typical like impatient entrepreneur in the beginning.
Yes, yes. I mean, I had 2 phones. So I had a work phone, and then so there were constantly emails. So even, like, having the physical second phone, you don't realize, like, how much a part of your routine it is to wake up and check it, and then how that would, like, kind of you figure out your day from what your emails are saying of like, okay, I'm in the shower, I'm thinking about I'm going to cover this story probably today, or I probably need to call this person to ask about this thing. You know what I mean? It was just baked into the
Yes.
day, and then not having it, and it's like, okay, like, who's emailing me now?
Yes, and wait, who's emailing me? And by the way, I didn't realize how much I liked that. Like how much it did
Hmm.
for me. Meaning I found value in feeling valued by someone. Like,
Mm,
but that getting a barrage of emails and people asking me to meet with me and teaming me on Teams
yeah.
for my opinion or my thoughts on something actually made me feel really valued all throughout the day. I did not realize that until it was gone. Like I didn't realize
Mm,
how much that would matter to me until I left. Because what happens when you leave that job 2 weeks later, not no one's pinging you because they need things. It's usually not like that.
yeah.
It's, oh, hey, I'm interested in your coaching program. Let's tell me more. It's not the same level of barrage I'm getting
Right.
2 weeks after, 3 weeks after I've left that job. It's just not similar in that sense.
Yeah. Not yet. Not yet. Now you have time to
Okay,
build out this
okay,
program.
okay.
Not yet. And then you're going to come back on and be like, I had to get an assistant because I was getting a barrage of emails and it was just too much to keep up with. So, not yet. But do you
I
have a
love it.
period of mourning? Do you have a mourning period where are you grieving anything?
I feel like the first month was, I would say the first 2 weeks for sure were like that, but it was longer. It was more a month or so of
Hmm.
where I missed, one, I missed the comfort of having, I'll say 9 to 5, knowing that it's not ever 9 to 5. It's usually longer, but I
Hmm.
say 9 to 5 just to give it a label.
Right.
There's a comfort and security that comes with 9 to 5. There's also a feeling of morning of a career, right?
Hmm.
Because even though I've decided intentionally to do something that is 1000% fulfilling versus like 80% fulfilling, right?
Hmm.
What I'm doing is my zone of genius. What I was doing before was my zone of excellence, right? And
Mm.
and that still felt really good. Like people don't understand. That still feels good. But I was going for something better. Like, I want to live my life completely and fully, right? And but you still mourn that I was really good at that. People really liked what I did. And
Hmm.
I'm missing that validation now, right? I get it through coaching and people are like, oh, you're a great coach. And yes, I do speaking and you get validation that way, but it is different when you're in an environment where you're getting that constantly and you've gotten that for years in a certain
Right.
way in a corporate space. It looks different. And so I did mourn that part of my life. And I would say I'm still in that of, oh wow, I've left that behind. This is difficult. All of my people who are still at that company that I was at are amazing. Oh, I miss seeing them in the morning when I go into work.
Mhm.
I miss chatting with them. Oh, I miss asking them about their kids. Yes, I can text them. Yes, I can LinkedIn message them. I can email them. It is not the same when you're in the environment with those people all the time because they mean something to you. And
Mhm.
I'm an introvert, but I'm also an extrovert, and I
Mhm.
love social connection. We actually need it as human beings too, but I especially do. And I miss having that ready, like at the ready every day.
Right. I love that zone of excellence and zone of genius. How do you differentiate the two? Kind of explain that.
Oh, so Zone of Genius. This is from The Big Leap by Guy Hendricks. Gay
Mhm.
Hendricks. I got the name right. I hope so.
Okay.
So this is from that book. I've read it. I've read it. I've read it at least 4 times at this point.
Oh,
I read it
wow.
right when I left my job. I read it again. And I was like, I need to read this again. I need to read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield again. I went through all the books I got to read again to get my mind ready and set to keep this machine
Mhm.
going that is not fully baked yet. And I'm still building it. I am building it as I am flying it. Okay. Uh, Zone
That's
of
how we
G.
all are.
It's
We are building this thing while we're flying.
but you know what, Andre? Let me tell you, that's what I did in my job too before. I feel like I was always doing that. Like you're always creating as you were always doing it at the same time. So I feel like I know that well. Now it's for me. So the
Mhm.
stakes to me are just so much higher. They feel so
Yeah.
much higher because it means so much to me personally, right?
Yeah.
So Zone of Genius is that zone that is uniquely yours. It is your unique gift to the world. Only you can do that. It's a full expression of you, your values, your strengths. Everything you bring to the table is your zone of genius. No one else can do it the way that you do. You're uniquely positioned to do it. Zone of excellence is something that you are phenomenal at. You're great at, but someone else could do it too. You're not
Mhm.
uniquely positioned for it. It's not what you were made to do or created on this planet to do. But my zone of genius is something that, like, I believe God put me here to do this. Like, this is where I am locked in. I am ready to go. I feel fully aligned inside, and I feel alive. Like, it makes me feel so alive. And you're good at it. So, it's you get a big bang for your buck essentially.
Mhm. I love the differentiation and how you were in the zone of excellence and you loved who you worked with. And it wasn't like a negative experience that launched you into your next, right? But it was the desire to be the fullest expression of yourself. And so, but why, right? So just kind of give people some of your background because you're an attorney by trade. And I know that I mean, just getting to that point, graduating from the Boston College Law School
That's
as
right. Go
undergrad,
Eagles.
right? Go Eagles. Um, just doing that in your family, like becoming an attorney, you're a wife, you are a mother, you know, a lot of people are like, it's not the zone of genius, but it's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but it's cool. Like I can do a lot with this excellent thing. Like I could do a lot with it. You know?
Yes, yes.
Kind of talk to us about your background and this nudging. Like when did it start for you?
Oh, ooh, how much time do you have?
We got time,
Okay,
girl. Go ahead.
so
Go
so
ahead.
so I will say that since I was very young, since I can remember, you know how our memories as kids sometimes you can't remember things very clearly, but I remember as a young child believing like I was made for something. I didn't know what it was, but I was like,
Mhm.
I believe that like I'm meant to do something big. I'm meant to touch people's lives. I'm meant to do that. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it looks like, but I always felt that pull. There was always a
Mhm.
pull that I felt that I couldn't articulate, but it was there. And so I am first generation born in the US. My parents are from the Dominican Republic. And obviously, legacy is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Work ethic is important. I grew up understanding what sacrifice meant and being the beneficiary of my parents' sacrifices, especially when it came to education. So
Right.
I knew that, okay, if I do anything else, I got to go to college. I have to get a good job. I went through the whole financial security. I have to provide for myself. I want to make them
Mm-hmm.
proud, make my family proud, make my community proud, make myself proud. I went through all that. I wanted to be a lawyer essentially because I saw Law and Order on TV, thought it was cool. I didn't know any
Mm-hmm.
lawyers at the time, like in my family. There's that was not the case. I
Right.
wasn't exposed to like white collar professionals. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
exposed to that. It wasn't part of my upbringing or I had no kind of network at that time, right? I wasn't talking to my parents' friends about all their professional endeavors,
Yes.
right? So
I
you're in
get
a
it.
different position, different
Yeah.
position. And I was at college. I went to law school. I went, I thought eventually to do education policy. That didn't work out because I actually did an internship and realized that's not for me. It's politics. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to
Yeah,
get involved
right.
in that. So the journey though to become a lawyer at a law firm and do federal clerkships and really reach that level of the practice of law was a grind. People
Mm-hmm.
don't understand. Like when someone tells you that they work at a law firm, understand that they are available 24/7 to somebody else. That is their job. That is what they get paid to do. And that mental and emotional toll is heavy. It is heavy. It feels heavy for most people. Not everybody. Some people can make peace with it and just move on.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when I was at a law firm and I had my son, that was when I had my first child. I felt this like massive pull again, being like, I'm not sure this is what you should be doing. And by the way, I felt like that when I was in law school. I felt that way when I was an associate um,
Mm.
at law firms. I felt that way of like, is this really what like you want to be doing? I know you're good at it. People like your work. They say you're good at it. They say you could one day make partner if you wanted that, meaning they can't guarantee that, but they send you messages like, oh, maybe your partnership material. But deep down, Andrea, like that wasn't me, like completely
Mm-hmm.
me. That's zone of excellence. You're good at it. You like, but like something else is calling me, and I have to figure out what that is. So when I had my son, I had an identity crisis. Was like, oh my God, who am I if I'm not a lawyer? Who am I if I'm not like the Latina lawyer? Who am I if I'm not all these things? And eventually transitioned into the biotech industry and went in house and did legal and compliance there. Again, climbing ladders
Right.
and still felt like I'm really good at this and I love the people I work with, but is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Like what my gifts need to be used for. And I got my coaching certification because I was exploring that because I had a coach, a life coach, and she was amazing. And I was like, ooh, I love this. I love the way that this works. And this feels like really good and natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my coaching certification. I got a few. I started coaching on the outside of my full-time job. I started coaching women, especially first generation women of color, but also any woman in like a fast-paced environment that had a
Mm-hmm.
similar background to me essentially,
Right.
and loved it. Then I started my podcast, the Humble Rising podcast,
Mm-hmm.
featuring stories of really powerful women and how they navigate life and career. How do they find fulfillment and joy through it all? And I like felt lit up. When I coach, I feel lit up. When I'm speaking to people, I feel lit up. When I'm doing the podcast, doing interviews, I feel lit up. When I'm on a
Yeah.
stage or on a panel talking about life and how to navigate life, career, and how to navigate our minds and our emotions and the fears we bring into things where, there's no such thing as fearless, FYI. You just carry your fear with you. It's all about how you
Right.
process it. I love that. Like that was me. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I did was I tried to merge my lit upness in coaching and all the things
Mm-hmm.
I did outside of work with work by asking, hey, could I join the HR group? So human resources do leadership development, help grow and develop talent, help coach them. I was like, ooh, I could just do that at my 9 to 5. eventually I got to a leadership development position and for like created and I would say revamped our executive coaching program, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And then I got there, Andrea, to that position with an amazing team, one of the best leaders I've ever worked for, who is dope. Like she is dope. Diana Cruz-Sulash, that's you. You're awesome. To an amazing team, doing really amazing work, creating different initiatives. And it was so good. And I was like, oh, shoot, this is not it. This is not it. This is not it. Oh, I've been trying for years. And honestly, that is when I knew. And I'm going to, because that is when I faced it head on. And that little nudge became literally like a punch in my gut and was like, the time is now. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. This is amazing. This is incredible. Someone else can do this. You are meant to do this other thing. You are meant to inspire, to motivate, to coach, to do all the things that you want to be doing to make the impact you want to make. This is not the way you're going to do it. You're playing small. You need to play bigger. Don't be scared. Literally every day, that voice kept talking to me, and it wasn't in a negative way. It was empowering. It was like, you're scared. I know that, but you can do this. It was that kind of voice for months. Like it was a lot, Andrea, a lot for months. And then finally I left my job for those who are listening. I left in March, early March. So to give you context of the timing, in December, I thought, okay, I'm gonna give this like 9 months because I was thinking about finances and there were two equity distributions that were going to come out the following year. And I wanted to get the benefit of that. I said, okay, I'm going to just give it 9 more months, give it more time. January hits and I'm like, oh, no, I can't wait. I have to do this now. Because again, my whole body was moving towards this destiny. Like I really believe that. If people are like, oh, behind you, I'm like, you know, you're just your whole body and your mind. My soul was like, I am called to this. Life cannot wait. I could die tomorrow. And if I die tomorrow, I'll be like, damn it. I wasn't on the way. I wasn't on the way. Because now I literally feel like if I died tomorrow, please God, give me some more time. But if I died tomorrow, I would be like, I was doing the thing. I was getting closer to that person. And Andrea, I'll tell you one quick story, not my own. This is something that Ed Milet, he's a big motivational speaker. I heard him speak and he tells the story of heaven. And he says, I want you all to get to heaven. He's telling the audience, I want you all to get to heaven. He's like, but it's for a specific reason. He's like, I want you to get to heaven and I want to meet the person you are meant to be. I want you to meet that person. He's like, and I want you to live your life so that when you meet that person talks to you and says, oh, you were doing it. You were doing your thing. We are so locked in. Yes. Instead of you meet them and they're like, what happened? Why couldn't you be you? Why couldn't you be and live fully? You didn't get there. What happened? You don't want to have, he's like, you don't want to have that conversation. And I said, no, I don't. I don't want to have that conversation. Nope. I want to feel like I get there. And I'm like, I was getting so close to you. And I'm getting closer. I want to feel like I'm on that journey, genuinely on that journey, like truthfully on that journey.
Yes, so much. Oh my God. So much resonates, right? One, I think it's people understanding that you didn't have the feeling and then jumped. You're like, okay, maybe it's not this job. Maybe it's not this like company. Maybe it's not this position. Maybe it's not this role. Maybe it's not this team. You know what? Let me do some stuff on the side. All right, I'm going to do this. Okay, well, then I'm going to do this. Okay, let me merge that in this. Like, it's years.
Yes.
Of like tooling and trying to figure it out. And like, I did the same thing where I was like, oh, well, maybe it's not this station. Let me go to another station, picked up all my stuff and moved my whole life. And then within the roles, it's like, maybe I could have this role and I'm trying to find angles in between where I am. Until, as you said, I told a friend who was like contemplating things last year. And I knew she was getting close, but of course,
Mm,
she doesn't know that she was getting close, and I was like,
yeah.
"That's not my place to say it," and I just said, "You will know.
Hmm.
There will be absolutely no question," because I think people are like, "I need to have the courage," and it's kind of like I felt like I had no choice.
Mm,
Like, it's not like I made this I did make a choice, but I just also
yes.
felt like there was no other choice to make. It was just as stark and as clear as day, and I just had to leap
Hmm.
into it. I had
Hmm.
to answer that call. And then also lastly, just about the idea of if it was your last day, how would you reflect on your life? And not how other people would reflect on your life. Because people are like, oh my God, look at what you did. You made great relationships at work. Like you have impacted people. You were coaching on the side. Like you had done all the things, but you would know. And I felt like that with myself is like other people would be like, wow, look, she was on television and she was doing all these things. But I would know that I had
Hmm.
capacity for far more and that I
Hmm.
actually was not existing within the fullness of my capacity, nowhere near actually. Um, and that where I was did not have the capacity, was not designed for somebody like myself. It's fine at how it's designed and it works for a lot of people, but the way I was designed in my capacity just could not fit there. And
Yes.
I had to go, and I didn't know where it could fit, so that's why I'm trying to create a place for
Hmm.
myself, because I still
Hmm.
couldn't look around and find the other place where it would fit.
Yeah, and that's the thing is what people have to, I think, move through. And what I had to move through every time I even made a pivot, Andrea, right? When I went from law firm to in-house, that's people do that often, right? Like
Mhm.
you go from being a lawyer at a law firm to being a lawyer at a company, and then you go into corporate compliance, which is often also a typical transition for lawyers, right? But then when I said, actually, I don't want to do this legal thing anymore. I want to do people development. I want to do something totally different. I had a lot of people be like, "Are you sure? Are you,
Mhm.
wait a minute. That means you're not going to be a lawyer anymore." And I said, "Yep." And I remember someone asking me point blank, one of my mentors at the time said, "You know that doesn't mean that means you're not going to be a lawyer anymore. Are you okay with that?" I said, "Yes, I feel great about it. I feel great about it." He was like, "Oh, okay." And that was it, right? And then I moved on to do those other things. But the point is that you are the one who's responsible for knowing the truth. And you're the one who has to live with yourself. So I love Confucius's saying, and I hope I'm getting this right, but no matter where you go, there you are.
Mhm.
Like I kept pivoting and doing the things to get closer to this thing. I kept doing that. And there I was every time.
Yeah,
There I was.
there you
There's the
go.
nudge. There it is. And you can't run from yourself. So I do think that one thing I have been really intentional about the last, I would say, 8, 9 years since my son was born, really since my son was born, was being really intentional and reflective of what is my true truth. What's my truth? Like what is true for me, especially in this season. So when I had one child, my life looked a certain way. When I had two, it changed. And then three is just a little bonkers. Like it's a little
Yeah.
bonkers. And your your energy capacity is very different,
Mhm.
right? I have to be a crazy prioritizer, like insanely. And so when I decided to do make this leap, people would I mean people were like, "Wait a minute, are you sure? Are you guys going to be okay?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yes, because I have worked my ass off for so many years so that I had somewhat of an ability to do this." Like being really intentional about that over time has really helped me. Like I always do try to lock into myself. I do a lot of journaling. I do all of that. I take solo trips really to be by myself because something that I struggled with for years was being still with myself.
Mhm.
And I still
Mhm.
struggle with that. But you get better at the more you practice it.
No, I think that's good. Talk more about motherhood and how that's given you clarity of purpose.
Oh, when you become a mother, you start seeing things through fresh eyes because kids notice things that you're like, "Oh, it's just a tree." And they're like, no, look at all these things on the tree and look at the bird. Like, oh, I think they're making a nest. They have this appreciation for things. And it to you, it feels like a newfound appreciation, but they are often seeing things for the first time. And it makes you look at things a little differently. So that's one thing I love about kids is that they give you a fresh perspective on something that it may be normal to you, part of something that you see every day, but they can shift your perspective very quickly. The other piece to kids and how they really force you to look at yourself is the way that you parent. Ooh, you will get to know yourself real well because you will see what are your triggers, where you get impatient, where you get reactive, because I guarantee it's because of something that happened to you in your past. So the way that they interact with you and their emotional dysregulation forces you to check yourself because you as a parent cannot be emotionally dysregulated when engaging with an emotionally dysregulated child. Your job is to hold the line. Your job is to not engage in that. Like that, you gotta be someone who is remains calm, which I don't always do. Like sometimes I yell and I'm like, I told you 5 times, put on your shoes. Why is it so hard? Put on the shoes, right? But it does force you to look at yourself and be like, wait, why am I so triggered by this? Why, when they're whining, why is that so triggering to me? And part of it is because for so many of us, and this is not a dig on anybody or any parents who came before us, is that a lot of our parents were taught to be quiet and that, don't fuss, don't complain. And we were taught, please stay quiet. Please don't, because especially if it was stressful in the household, you're taught, like, you're not taught. No one tells you, well, sometimes they do tell you to be quiet and shut up. But right. Sometimes it's most often just the environment, the energy of please, like, just don't say anything because then that will cause more stress. And right. So you as a parent are like, okay, how do I want to parent? How do I want to show up? So you become more intentional. I still fall back to certain things, but it makes you more intentional with your interactions with people generally. It forces you to take a look at how emotionally dysregulated you can get from being triggered by certain things. And you have to dig into why that is. That's a lot of healing work you do. And I feel like my kids have motivated me to be everything, like to be this full expression of myself, because that's what I tell them to do. Right. I tell them, oh, just be you. I love you for being you. And, and I'm there to support them and encourage them. And in fact, my son he drew me a Mother's Day card. And it said, I literally almost cried. It said, Mommy, thank you for always supporting me and giving me courage throughout my life. And I was like, that's the parent I want to be. And that's but that's also who I want to be, like, to myself. Like, I want to have courage. I want to summon it. I want to do all those things. So oftentimes our kids are a reflection of what we may want to improve about ourselves, or a reflection of like the great parts of who we are. And it's super validating in that way. So kids are definitely especially my girls, like when my daughter was born, my first daughter, they put her on my chest after she was born. And I felt like this incredible connection to her. And I was like, yo, we gon' run shit. I was like, sorry for the cursing. I was like, we are about to tear this up. Like, I was like, run the world, girls, literally. I was like, yo, you about to be crazy amazing.
Yeah.
And she, like, in addition to my son, she put a fire in my belly of, okay, mom, you say I can be anything. Okay, mom, you say I should be confident. Okay, mom, you say I should be fierce. You say that I should love myself. Okay, show me. What does it look like? So I've been on that journey too.
Mm-hmm. I know.
How to role model that. Oh,
and she looks just like you. She looks just like you. I think too, it's probably the first gen thing because like we are existing, where we are our parents' wildest dreams, right?
Yes.
But also, now we're also existing in a world where we want the next generation to have so much more free, like in terms of especially being women and just what it means to be women, and the expression of womanhood, and how it's much broader now, and how it's freer now than even when we were growing up,
Yes.
and raising, the next generation to fully embrace that is a feat, is absolutely a feat.
And embracing their identity.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but when I was younger, you were either white or you were other. There
Hmm.
was no, oh, you got all these things, and it wasn't like that. You felt forced into a lane. You felt forced
Hmm.
into, okay, I'm Dominican culturally. I was very Dominican culturally. I felt that way as a child. Spent a lot of time with family, but I was also really American. I was born here. I went to
Hmm.
school. I went to school, Catholic school, with mostly white kids. I was trying to fit in, like both, like with my family and with kids at school. And I was always told, I mean, from, especially at school, like, you're not like us. And though, yeah, I had friends, they were still reminders of my difference.
Yes.
Like, you eat rice and beans, what's that? Like, ew. And now people think, rice and beans are the greatest thing. And I'm like, yeah, when I was growing up, it wasn't like that. It wasn't cool.
Right.
J Lo, we didn't have J Lo. It wasn't cool. Like
Right,
it,
right, right.
like
Me, I'm
it
like, we
wasn't
didn't have
cool.
Afro beats were
Yeah,
not cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up
yeah.
with soca music. Like, people did not like that. People did not care.
Yeah, they
So,
thought it
yeah,
was weird, like you were
yeah,
weird. And so, and that does affect you as a child. And I am grateful that we live in an area where my kids have friends from all different backgrounds, and often mixed. And my children are mixed too. They're Dominican and Black. And
hmm,
so I I am grateful for that, because I am trying to teach them, you are who you are, and your identity, be proud of all of it. They're all pieces of you, right? They're all pieces of you, and be proud that you are both, and that you're everything that you are. But when I was growing up, like, that wasn't the message people gave you, right?
right,
They're getting those messages. I mean, where they go to school, again, privileged to go to the school they go to, where they get that message, where the number one value at that school is equity, inclusion, and diversity, right? What, at my school, they were like, what is that?
right,
So, right, it wasn't a thing. It
right.
wasn't focused on. People were like, it wasn't something that people were trying to cultivate, at that time, at least in my experience. And so, identity for me, having them be proud of their identity and being okay with whatever they want to do, is such a privilege to be a part of that, to give that gift, because now I can. Right now, I'm able to do that.
I love that. And I love that you are really the embodiment. I know it's like we're talking from a privileged position, right? Because of our education,
Yes.
because of, like what we were able to do. But I think a lot of people oftentimes don't, they have the fire in their belly, but they also say, but I want to have something predictable for my kids. So I'm actually not going to pursue that because of my children. So I love how you're saying, no, it's because of my children is the reason why I'm pursuing
Yes.
this, because I have to be the embodiment of that for them. Two more things really quickly. One is that just having small children, and you still make time for solo trips for yourself, because you're talking about how you have to
Yes,
um,
I
just
do.
kind of check in with yourself, which is amazing. So tell me about the retreat that you just went on, and
Okay.
how was it
So
for you?
So it was called Datu, Datu, Datu Wellness Retreat, and it was in Tuscany, Italy. I think they're going to do them in different countries, but it
Mhm.
was in Tuscany, and it was all about thinking about yourself holistically, like mind, body, spirit, you know, emotionally, and really getting back in tune with yourself and giving yourself a reset. So we did a lot of, when I say we, there was about 20 or so guests, and then
Mhm.
a team of instructors and people there to support us and be there for us. Maybe there was like 10 of them. And it was literally it looked like a villa, like a 15th century villa in the hills of Tuscany. You literally walked out of your door or looked out your window. There were hills, and it was beautiful. Like, it was breathtakingly beautiful every day. So you're instantly like in a new environment. You're resetting for the environment. But what we did was we had a schedule every day. Everyone followed the same kind of schedule. And you didn't get the schedule for the next day until the evening before, which
Mm.
all of our type A personalities were like, wait, what? No, what's the schedule? Oh, we need to know everything. And the guy that leads the retreat was like, you don't need to know anything. You just need to go with the flow. You need to learn how to do that. I'm like, yeah.
Right.
I'm like, yes, I do. Okay, thank you. And the mornings were yoga, breath work, meditation. There was that in the afternoon as well. It was like a teaching session in the afternoon. In addition to that, where maybe it was on relationships, maybe it was on a certain way of eating, like the special vegan diet that we were practicing at the time at the retreat, where there was a private chef, a team of private chefs who cooked for us 3 times a day these beautiful, amazing, locally sourced meals. Amazing. And I did some art therapy with an art therapist. I did some private yoga sessions so that I could really understand how to merge my breath with my movement. It was honestly one of the best resets, also because there were other women there who had similar career um, backgrounds to me, where you're in this high achieving, high powered, you're high earning, and then you decide, I want to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
There were literally maybe four or so other women there just like that, and the same exact transition I was in, feeling like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? This feels so jarring. It's in a deep adjustment period, and talking to them, and they're from the UK, they're from all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
talking to them about this real experience we were having was so empowering and helpful to me, because I was like, yeah, this is hard, but this is what we're destined to do. One left a marketing agency to become a full-time artist, literally,
Mm.
and now lives like on a farm in England. I
Yeah.
mean, but I mean, them coming from what they came from, building something amazing and saying, and doing again, zone of excellence, doing great at it, and then say, yeah, but this is not it. I got to do the thing that's for me, that is my fullest expression. And then them go doing it. I was like, yeah, okay, we're in the same boat. I can do
Yeah.
that too. So that was so helpful to me to meet people like that. Also people who were grieving, people who went for their own type of reset, and
Mm-hmm.
connecting with them was really, it was really moving. And I came back with a renewed sense of, one, energy, but two, focus. It's like, look, like, set your intention at the beginning of the day, take it easy, be easy on yourself. Everything will come in due time. Just keep showing up. And that's when then I found your episode, your most recent episode,
Mm-hmm.
where you talk about that, where you say, hey, just keep showing up, be consistent, things will happen. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
trust, like the trust in yourself, the trust in the process. And so that retreat was incredibly calming, incredibly inspiring, and just what I needed. And I recommend everyone do this. I was gone for 9 days, people. 9 days.
A long
Your
time.
kids will be okay. Your partner, your boyfriend, whoever, they will be okay without you. Like, you need to do it for you sometimes. You just got to do it.
I have it bookmarked. I'm I'm
Yes.
figuring it out. I'm figuring it out. I got a bookmark. I'm figuring it
Okay.
out. And the last thing, as you know, we end the podcast with the ACT UP segment. ACT, those are my initials. So somebody is feeling that nudge. They have real life responsibilities. What's the one thing they can
Mm-hmm.
kind of do today to kind of put them on the track to finding their next?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say get really, really honest about what you want your life to look like in, I would say, 2 to 3 years. Don't put yourself in the year mark. 2 to 3 years. Get really clear about what that looks like. That's going to take some time. You're going to have to journal. You're going to have to really lay out what that day in 2 or 3 years looks like. What does your life look like? And then all you have to do is take one step from that vision that you've created very clearly. Commit to one thing you can do to get you closer to that. So that vision, that's for everybody, whether you have children or not, right? Like you're going to have responsibilities of some kind. Sure, children are a very big one, but it doesn't mean that you can't live a life that you really want to live. Maybe Andrea, there are people who are like, so what? I have kids. I'm going to travel the world no matter what. They can be homeschooled. There are people
Right,
who
there are.
they don't they don't they don't let their kids like kind of determine their own schedule. I'm a little different and I do a little differently, but we don't have to do it one way. And when you do a vision, you have to learn how to not self-center and judge yourself, because what you say is that's ridiculous, that's stupid, that's not realistic. That's where you're going to run into trouble. Again, why you have to be really honest with that vision and get really clear and understand that it's a reflection of like your deepest truth, like the truest true. What does that look like, even if it's scary? And then pick one thing that can get you closer. Pick one goal that gets you closer and work on that goal this year. Work on that goal for the next 6 months. It's little steps over time. Andrea, like you pointed out with my journey, I didn't go from 0 to 100. Like that
Right.
is not how it happens.
Right.
It's really about chipping away, and you do get closer over time. You have to trust yourself though to do that.
I love that. Arivee, if for your coaching program, for your podcast, how do we stay in contact with you?
Yes. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me at ariveevargas.com. It's ARIVEEVARGAS.com. You can also find me on the podcast, the Humble Rising podcast. Message me on LinkedIn. I'm here for you. We also have a mastermind coming in September. So if you get on that website, you can sign up for the email list to be the first to know when that opens for enrollment.
I love it. And we will be there supporting you for sure. Thank you for this.
So
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, it's been so amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to The Next Best Thing with Andrea Cline-Thomas, a Mountain Court Media production. The music was written, recorded, and produced by Gavin Casey, also known as Dark Purple. Now, if you like what you heard, please subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and write a comment on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to share it with friends. I hope this episode helps you on your journey. See you next time.